Oh, the twists and turns of the Warner Brothers Discovery sale continue today. Today is the final day of all bidders submitting their bid for Warner Brothers, right? And then we get articles like this. Netflix CEOs are reportedly very interested in acquiring Warner Brothers. David Zaslav said to want, quote, the biggest crown. I mean, obviously he does. Like, clearly he merged Discovery with Warner Brothers. If he gets rid of him, you know, as part of the CEO and things, yeah, he's going to want to go down as sort of historically great in this situation. So, obviously. But I've been following this because it's fascinating. It will reshape Hollywood forever. Undoubtedly. You know, Warner Brothers and Disney, although Warner Brothers has had problems lately, make no mistake, obviously they have. But Warner Brothers and Disney are two of the biggest studios of all time in terms of movie output, in terms of IP that they hold. And so when one of these players moves in any direction, it shakes things up. And if someone is going to buy one of them, obviously Warner Brothers, in this current situation anyway, that will change things forever. You know, I did a video yesterday bemoaning the fact that the Saudis might be interested in buying Warner Brothers. Said I hate that idea, because I do. I do. Hands down, I hate that idea. Lots of people are like, well, they'd end the wokeness. Okay, sure. Pretty short-sighted worldview, but okay. Yeah, sure. I just think, I don't know. Anyway, I think these companies should stay American. But Netflix apparently is interested. So this article pulls from a Variety article, which we have here. But we'll look at some of the sort of headline points here, right? Because it's interesting. So November 20, today, at time of recording, will be the deadline. It is the deadline for any party to submit a non-binding bid for the company. Now, I presume that non-binding bid element is because very similar to, say, how Elon Musk went around buying Twitter. You can submit a sum that you think it's worth, that you want to pay, and then obviously you'd have to investigate the finances and things like that. They become available to you, and then they can get into the nitty-gritty of whether it's actually worth that or worth more, etc., etc. So I presume that's what it is. But don't quote me on that. But anyway, this whole process is expected to end by December. So very quick turnaround. Very quick turnaround. But then it'll have to go through all the approval stages, making sure that whoever buys it doesn't become a monopoly, and all of this crap will have to happen, right? And so that could take quite a while. And that goes back to the DC, you know, the DC universe, where people were thinking that James Gunn would be fired. Because, you know, when all bids have accepted and, you know, it's going to go through and it has to go through the approval stage, blah, blah, blah. Because that takes so long, the likelihood is that will close around the time James Gunn's contract is up. So whoever actually buys Warner Brothers will be in a viable point to just eject James Gunn regardless. Because, yeah, his contract will be up, basically. So multiple different reports have come out as Wall Street and the entertainment industry keeps a close eye on a sale with the power to significantly alter Hollywood status quo. I mean, it's not significant. Like, it will change Hollywood forever. Okay? Like, that's just the thing. I mean, if Netflix buys them, for instance, you know, they are notorious for not really paying people a lot of money, but also approving lots of things. They've got loads of cash. I don't understand how or why or whatever, but they've got loads of cash. They don't really pay people great money, but they also do approve quite high budgets for things. The Russo brothers recently made a film for like $300 million for them or something. I mean, it's retardedly high budgets. So, you know, whoever buys them will effectively reshape the Hollywood landscape. And if it's Netflix, for instance, that will change things massively. Can you imagine Netflix's volume of releases, but under the Warner Brothers banner in theatres? That's mad. That will be insane. And imagine this as well. So here's a really key thing with Netflix. If Netflix bought Warner Brothers, Netflix has direct access to tens, if not hundreds of millions of eyeballs via their own app. Their advertising costs will be nothing. The marketing costs of movies will be nothing. There'll be something, obviously, but it's not in the hundreds of millions of dollars like Warner Brothers is. And you can see how these subtle changes will reshape everything forever. It will change how these movie companies think about marketing to everyone in future. I mean, it's direct to consumer marketing at that point. They will literally throw a trailer in front of one of their videos, or advertise at the top of their app's homepage. This movie's coming soon in theaters, blah blah blah. I mean, that'd be mad, wouldn't it? There's an idea for you there, Netflix. So anyway, it says this. Now, important pieces of information regarding the impending sale have come out. Variety published a report discussing the parties involved in the bidding process. Per the trade, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, quote, wants the biggest crown that gives him the biggest portfolio. Obviously. It makes sense given the scale of the transaction. So the report also included a very interesting statement regarding Netflix. The trade said that a possible outcome of the sale is Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery with David Zaslav as the head of the studio, with Comcast getting HBO Max. So that's weird. I don't like that. But anyway, also, how would that work with the properties that HBO Max has at the moment? Because there's cross-pollination of IP ownership there. Anyway, CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters are said to want this to happen. However, Netflix chairman Reed Hastings is reportedly reluctant to deal with regulation procedures that would stem from such a deal. Quote, Greg Peters and Ted Sarandos really want this, but Reed Hastings doesn't want to deal with the regulatory hassles. And that's all that process that has to go through. So this potential development would be a shocking outcome for Warner Brothers, considering how HBO Max is such a pivotal part of the company. And that, why would you get rid of HBO Max? Like, surely Netflix would just run it in conjunction with themselves? That's weird. I don't like that. I don't see the point in that. So Netflix's reported interest in such a deal also comes as a surprise, given that out of all the potential buyers, Netflix has arguably been the most difficult to get a read on. Following the announcement that Warner Brothers Discovery was up for sale, both Peters and Sarandos seemed to indicate a lack of interest. That's just called a poker face. It's pretty normal. The thing is, if they indicate that they're interested, the stock can go up, and so then they have to pay more. So this is pretty normal. The fact that articles don't understand that is dumb, but okay. Sarandos said during an aftermarket analyst call, we're predominantly focused on growing organically, investing aggressively and responsibly into the growth of returning excess cash flow to shareholders. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, Variety mentioned that they're not really interested. But according to Variety now, Netflix is in a position to make a legitimate bid, which would most likely be all in stocks. But despite the streamer's interest in Warner Brothers Discovery, its chances of actually acquiring it are in question. So as reported by Variety, California Representative Darrell Issa sent a letter to Pam Bondi, Gail Slater, and Andrew Ferguson detailing antitrust concerns arising from a potential Netflix-Warner Brothers Discovery merger. So they said this: as you're aware, Netflix is already the dominant streaming platform in the United States, and permitting it to absorb a major competitor raises antitrust concerns that could result in a harm to consumers. With more than 300 million global subscribers, can you imagine that? 300 million global subscribers. That's the point I'm trying to make. Direct-to-consumer marketing. And a vast content library, Netflix currently wields unequaled market power, adding both HBO Max's subscribers and Warner Brothers' premier content rights would further enhance this position, reportedly pushing the combined entity above a 30% share of the streaming market, a threshold traditionally viewed as presumptively problematic under antitrust laws. So that's interesting. So maybe that's why they just want to get rid of HBO Max, just jettison it off into the abyss, so they can be like, well, fuck it, we've got everything else. Anyway, there you go. This will reshape Hollywood, right? Like it's not up for debate. You know, this will unequivocally reshape the Hollywood landscape. So there you go. Leave your thoughts down below. Hit subscribe if you're new here. Take care. Bye-bye now.